Fantastic.
Fantastic.
I hope you have a good day.
Hope you have a better week.
I hope your month is full of successful days and a lot of great ventures. I hope you just come up, brother.
I hope your whole fucking year is spectacular.
Oh, you hope my year is spectacular?
Yeah.
You got something you want to say?
You got something you want to say?
You smell great.
You smell great. What is that?
Burberry. What you got on?
I forgot.
Smells expensive.
It's just deodorant.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
We smelling good. Smelling good brothers out here.
You an awesome man, and I appreciate you.
Yeah. Hope you find yourself.
Yeah, we should go out. Get drinks.
Go get drinks?
Yeah.
How many drinks?
2, 3, 4,
5,
5,
6,
7,
8,
9,
10.
All of them.
On me?
It's on me. No, it's on me now.
You?
Yeah, it's on me now.
Man. I'm in some reflection over the what's happened last week, a week ago today, involving a gentleman known as Nipsey Hussle. Government name or given name is Ermias Davidson. Middle name, we'll go by Nipsey right now. It's pretty much the way I'm sure he probably would have wanted it anyway. I never thought I'd be impacted by this, or just being a casual outsider and appreciative of this younger man's musical contributions and his business endeavors. The only linkage being that I once grew up in that community, in those environs that I'm familiar with, very familiar with, and seeing that he tried to actually make some sort of a change, real change, tangible change, there in an area known as South Central Los Angeles that has long been neglected, not been well respected throughout the years as long as I can remember, throughout my existence in life, through stories I've heard within my family, stuff you don't ordinarily hear on the news. Otherwise, you might hear them from investigative reports, from analysts after a given situation has transpired. To cover the years of social neglect would take volumes, and it's been reported and been documented in books, many books, and many college papers, research papers, investigative news reports, and so on about the neglect that had resulted in this city of Los Angeles and in certain communities, that being those occupied by black people. That's from the standpoint of which I know and have been affected by. A position of experience and direct experience and perspective that I can lend to this, which has led me to believe that this is not just some random incident. It's not the theory of a conspiracist or some conspiracy nut. Rather, it's moreover a conspiracy fact, a fact that there is conspiracy involved and associated with this young man's death. This man went by a code, developed a code, albeit he made his money through alternative income sources, which was temporary, being affected by a lack of opportunity, a real opportunity to advance within the community in which he was brought up. Deprived of certain opportunities, he made money the only way that he knew how to. It's not even a far off notion from within my own mind, because for a time I thought of alternative sources of income, but was too afraid of the result. Knew at an early age the only way that I wanted to even be in the close or near proximity of a jail was if I had the keys to it, which was invariably, in my case, what happened. 'Cause, 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 'c But this didn't happen without being moved around all throughout the expanse of Los Angeles and having to do that because of the resources that have been largely depleted. See, I grew up in South LA in the early 70s. I came along not too long after the Watts Rebellion. They hadn't rebuilt from that point. In 1967, 66, throughout the 70s, they hadn't rebuilt LA. Sure, the figureheads, the talking heads said that they would. They started certain social programs just to elevate their own individual platforms, doing really nothing for the entirety of the collective. Things got progressively worse. Not only just white flight, but there was a flight of those who were not white that fanned out from the inner cities and pursued what they thought were opportunities in the outlying suburbs. Factories closed within the city. People experienced job loss and had to get on welfare. Even welfare was cut back. Male counterparts of any given relationship were serving stints in prison because of suppressive operations to control those that fell off and ended up getting involved in alternative sources of income just to support their families, to at least try to eke out some sort of an existence in life, to only be incarcerated. Never got a chance to know or foster any kind of development with my own father. As a matter of fact, my own father was in the penitentiary when I was born. But yet, society dictated and said you can pick yourself up by your own bootstraps. All those men in jail, black men. I'm not talking about men of color here. I'm talking about black men because I am black. I'm black first, always have been, always will be black first. You have suppressive measures, Operation Hammer, Batarang, Crash Program, Operation Safe Streets by the LA County Sheriff's Department, who used to actually intentionally drop those off in rival gang territories, as I would find out in the early 80s when I was working a particular stint at a school in LA Unified School District. Stories of police officers and sheriff's deputies that would drop off teenagers that they would detain, teenage black men, and drop them off in rival gang territories on purpose to see if they could fend their way out. Yet, people are lambasting those who suggest that the death of Nipsey Hussle is some kind of conspiracy. And I'm here to tell you there's a hidden hand behind all this, but we'll never know the truth, right? So here we are. We're a week removed from what's happened, and within that week, there have been celebrities and public figures and even a police chief who've had honorable things to say about this man. And by week's end, there's been a gang truce initiated. Some of those would even question that, only to say, wasn't there a gang truce during the '92 riots? What happened with that? Well, this is an ensuing new generation of gang member, a new age, if you will, as we have with rap music. We have this new age of rap music, a new age of style, a new age of swag. And who has catapulted to the forefront? Who's been catapulted to the forefront here? Nipsey Hussle. He bought off a good section of his block where he used to ply his wares. Again, there we go, talking about that alternative income. So a gang truce was initiated by some prominent figures, some OGs, quote unquote, which is now acceptable parlance, even as I'm watching TV nowadays and see a commercial and or a segment on Entertainment Tonight talking about OGs. I'm speaking OGs as far as original gangsters is concerned, people that were purely responsible for the formation of what would be Rolling 60s Crips, Pyru Bloods, Rolling 40s, and so on and so forth. Those that were directly implicit and responsible with creating these tribal groups, I like to call them. Because the system wasn't helping things along. The system facilitated white flight. The system facilitated those who were of means that could afford a house in the suburbs, afford the white picket fence. You weren't allowed to move out to places like Simi Valley if you were black. People questioned why. Even the sellers themselves, they didn't want you there. And this is after integration, forced busing. It was okay for Negroes to be in the San Fernando Valley during certain hours of the day, as long as they could play basketball or sing and entertain. It was okay for you to be black in Los Angeles in the 80s. But I digress. So it's a newly reinvigorated gang truce among various Crip and Blood factions and some interfactions within the Crips that are fighting one another or have been fighting one another for whatever the reasons were. It took the bold step into to coming together, and it does fall on them. They have to be the ones to want change. They want it, and they're going to do it, and I support it. Definitely being an advocate for positive change in the community from which I originated. And those constructive strides that are developing before our very eyes as a result of this one tragedy that occurred at Slauson and Crenshaw last Sunday. Hey, man, I remember going down Crenshaw on Sunday. You couldn't get 30 yards without just being jammed up in traffic, somebody trying to sell you a bean pie or a t-shirt. Makes you wonder how the shooter got away for 3 days and wound up so conveniently at a mental health institution in Bellflower, 20 miles away or so. But that's conspiracy, right? I'm making that up. Anyway, the gangs are trying to do their part to work things out. And fortunately, LAPD just monitored things, erected some stanchions to make sure people weren't destroying things and damaging property, allowed people to convene and mourn. Give them a thumbs up instead of calling a tactical alert and rounding up people and declaring unlawful assembly and whatnot, which is what my first thought was. But we got naysayers out there claiming that this effort towards gang truce is just reconstituted from past trials. But we still have to keep trying. They still have to keep trying. They have to be the ones that want the change. The change has to come from the people that want it the most. I'm not saying blame falls on them. I'm not casting blame. I'm not at liberty to say who's done what and is responsible for what. But they're a big part of what's gonna be some positive change, I think. As the Crips used to be known as Community Revolution in Progress. Depending on what acronyms you want to believe, depending on what research you want to do, there has been a belief that they started off as a youth group to try to restore communities and protect their communities, protect their own, because the government wasn't doing it. The fact was that resources were essentially and literally drying up in black communities all throughout the greater Los Angeles area. Certain leadership structures would topple with the neutralization of the local chapter of the Black Panther Party for self-defense, which, by the way, had established morning breakfast programs for kids, of which I was a recipient of, along with different ailments like sickle cell research and that. They funded those types of efforts specifically to preserve black life and to create some type of measure in society where we could hold our heads up high. But they were typecast by the feds, by COINTELPRO, and that cross-dressing FBI director, ironically. And here we are, 2019, facing suppressive efforts to keep black men subjugated. Think about that. So with everything that LA has experienced, and we're here now, looking for answers. Now, it's not that I've particularly been fascinated with street gangs, street hustling, or the urban struggle itself. I mean, back when I was a kid, I thought I had it good. I mean, I saw some adverse situations, and I was victimized here or two, time or two, but life has been good. Life has been good. My exposure was limited. I wasn't necessarily sheltered. I saw a lot. But I think what mitigated a lot of things was the fact that I moved around. But that also had a adverse effect on me because I wasn't able to really plant roots. Just being relocated throughout the city in various communities, I got to see a lot of different things. But fortunately, I didn't wind up being incarcerated nor claiming a particular gang set. And I could say it's attributed to the fear of a single mom raising a black man, raising a man in an urban setting. Didn't really have a lot of positive male figures around. Just I had to take positive attributes off, and sift through the negativity that I was witness to. However, you power your way through it. You understand that there are contrivances set into motion in a city that seemingly does go out to suppress and control any potential of a black power shift. The advancement capabilities never would truly nor fully come into fruition on a broad scale. And homes were to be uprooted to make way for freeways. Case in point, the 105 freeway, mainly from that would link you from Orange County to the west side, over to the LA Forum for those that wanted to go to see the Kings play. They got tired of going down Imperial Highway and having their windows smashed while they're waiting at a traffic light. or actually the fear of that happening, the embellishment, when all you needed to do was just drive down the street and mind your own business. You can't tell me the 105 freeway was benefiting black people, that it created job opportunities. It's much similar to what happened with the Harbor Freeway and the Santa Monica Freeway, that being the 110 and the 10. Smack dab in Sugar Hill, the Adams district of Los Angeles. That was predominantly black and upscale at the time, the home of the Golden State Insurance Agency, mutual insurance agency that was black owned and operated. And we're talking this predates 1965, the Watts Uprising. So let's see, what do we cover? Street gangs, homes being uprooted, incarceration of the black male, criminalization. Yeah, I remember all that. I grew up knowing that, but I remain hopeful and will always consider myself native to the soil there in Los Angeles, South Central Los Angeles more notably. The struggle continues. More to follow.